Welcome once again to the BizLife Podcast. How are you doing today? Welcome to our show. We're happy to have you here with us. I'm here joined with my co-host, Brenda Bryant. Brenda, how are you doing today?
Hey, today's a great day to make it a great day.
Good. I'm glad. Brenda's fresh off vacation, so it's nice to have her back in the co-pilot chair. Appreciate that. It's good. And today we're joined with Andrew Burress. And Andrew is with Natura Pest Control. Did I say that properly?
You sure did.
Okay, welcome. And welcome to the BizLife Podcast. Thanks for joining us here today. Why don't you give us your origin story? Where are you from originally? How did you get, you're based in Reno. How did you get to Reno from where you're at? And kind of how'd you get into the business and tell us your background?
Yeah, so I appreciate you having me, Michael and Brenda. I stumbled into pest control, if I'm being completely honest. I think like maybe a few others have. I was going to Boise State back 2011, 2012, studying construction management, and took a summer gig in between semesters at school to sell pest control door to door. So I did that in California for about 3 years and started getting some interest in jumping over to the operations side of that. And so I talked to the current business owners of the time and, came up with the best salesman sales pitch I could and jumped over into operations and ended up actually opening up an office for them down in Bakersfield, California.
Mm-hmm.
And so I became a branch manager there for about 3 years. And then after that 3 years, we sort of sold those California offices, and I moved my family over to Reno, Nevada, where we opened up our own branch and actually had ownership in that branch and have been growing it ever since. And now we're in Boise, Idaho, and then also up in Tri-Cities, Washington, like Kennewick, Richland area. So,
nice, very good. So you've expanded multi-state.
That's great. Yeah, it's been fun, a fun journey. So I'm originally from Boise, Idaho, so obviously that place has always been near and dear to the heart. So we just actually opened up there this last year, which has been a lot of fun. I've been able to go up there and see family and friends a little bit more often and guilt trip them for signing up for my services. And we've been in Reno since 2017, plan on staying here, and it's just been an awesome ride.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for being with us today. This is great. So as you started the business, going from like a technician, well, you went from salesperson to technician and then to ownership.
Right.
Or you went into management
Right.
between that. How is that transition for you as a business owner?
I'm really grateful. Obviously, like anything else, sometimes during the journey, you sort of undervalue and underappreciate what you're going through. But I really am grateful that I did it the way that I did too. I went into sales first and then jumped over into operations because sometimes as a sales rep, you're getting told you're overselling stuff. And obviously you just sort of brush it off and you're like, we're bringing you business. It's a good thing. And then to be on the other side of the aisle there, all of a sudden you realize, yeah, there's some overpromising. It gets really hard to overdeliver if the customer's expectations are too high. So that was a really big learning curve for me. But having been on the other side of sales, I was able to sort of help make sure both people could be successful, try to find the win-wins in it all. And in management, again, just making sure to bridle the passions in between they're selling stuff wrong and we're not over delivering. So again, sort of being able to be the key peacekeeper and see the business from a higher level than most, I feel like was a good advantage to have. And then in Reno, when we opened up in 2017, we went from 0 to about 2,300 customers in about 4 months, and really explosive growth. I mean, we hit $1 million in revenue in 4 months, and it was sort of a wild experience. And I sort of, again, I threw a lot of hours at it, but I don't think that would have really been possible had I not been on both sides. So super grateful for it. I feel like that's been one of the competitive advantages that I've had through the years.
Very good. Now tell us the name Natura. It talks about some natural type of products, which you don't normally hear in pest control. Tell us about your product offerings and how you guys are different from your competitors.
Yeah, so when we initially sort of came up with the name, the branding, we did it deliberately knowing that we would have to act different. have to do things different, maybe even take on a little bit of extra cost in order to be different and sort of deliver on those uniques. And it was worth it to us because I feel like from a customer's point of view, when you're dealing with families, when you're dealing with kids and pets, that's always in the back of their mind. And so I felt like answering that question, even with just the name, was a stronger foot forward. And then in the service approach, we try to do things different. We do use all natural products. They don't have a lot of longevity to them. So we mix those with other products that are just very user friendly. They're labeled for food establishments, for hospitals, for daycares. So there's never a worry of customers having to leave, never have to worry about like their dog or their kids or their pets. And then we try on the back end in operations to really pair that with good education. And so to be natural, I feel like in pest control, it's not just about the products you use, it's like how you go about it in your service approach, making sure you're not over applying, you're using right product, right placement.
Hmm.
And it's a little bit of everything from start to finish. So I feel like we've always done a good job with that thing, thanks to the name of being sort of like that start to finish, just friendly option for customers.
Yeah. Now I remember we were talking. Oh, sorry, Brenda, go ahead.
Well, my question, Andrew, was because what you do is so different, do you find that you have to do more explaining to your customers or less?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So it depends on the market, which is a funny thing to have to say, but in different markets, it's competitive and not as competitive, I would say. So when you're in a competitive market, you get a lot of noise of how all of their companies are doing the same thing or what you're doing is not unique, when people are trying to approach your own customers. So you do find yourself having to explain it in a little bit of a different way. And obviously, it's never a really good thing to be in a defensive mode of no, they're not right because of X, Y, and Z. And so it just takes a lot more patience, I think, in competitive markets of just knowing that mudslinging is going to happen. But again, making sure that in the service approach, you're always addressing that. So when the question does arise, they sort of already have the answer. And I feel like in the non-competitive market, it was a lot easier to be able to just have the time and patience to develop that trust level with them. In Reno, we were sort of in a vacuum for a few years of not really having a ton of competition. So we were able through repetition to be able to sort of coach and train that customer on why we're unique. So when competition came in, I felt we were just a little bit better insulated and had a little bit better education to the customer.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
And Andrew, you had mentioned acquiring over 2,000 customers at once, in 4 months, which is kind of overwhelming to have that many that are new. It's one thing to get a new customer, it's another thing to hold on to your customers. So
Yes.
what are some of your strategies for keeping customers happy, kind of in the long term of things?
Yeah. So that's a great question. I have always been really focused with that since we started. I saw that when I was working even in our California branch, we really hadn't sort of figured out that niche, that vacuum yet. And when we did sell, I worked for Terminix for 3 years, and saw a lot of churn with that customer base. And so when we started, we sort of started with retention in mind. And so we did a lot more upfront training with sales reps to make sure that the expectations of them coming in were able to be met and exceeded by the service experts. And then we made sure that the customer, like the customer service reps on the phones, were always taking opportunities to not just answer the questions that were asked, but also take opportunities to educate and give peace of mind to the customer. So I feel like when you have marketing, when you have sales, when you have operations, sort of all accounting for that customer experience, it naturally just goes a little bit better. So I felt like we got off on the right foot, and we've been lucky to capitalize on that. But it takes the whole team to have buy-in. That retention is important for it to actually like be something that exists in your business. It can't be something that you just tell from up top.
Yeah, and when you talk about educating your customer, we were talking about this before the show started. I remember being a kid and being there watching TV or something, my toys on the ground when the guy with the old pump sprayer would come in to the house, and he'd squirt all my toys, he'd squirt every corner in the house, and it smelled funny and whatever else. And that was like nobody, mom never asked questions about that, right? Nobody asked anything. Nobody cared what they were spraying on your house or anything like that. We're definitely more informed consumers nowadays.
Mhm.
which is it's a double-edged sword. It's good because I think consumers demand a certain level of accountability from businesses now. And so I think it's wonderful you guys have an educational mission with you to help do this.
Yeah. It's needed because, like you said, I mean, every customer is more educated nowadays. They want more out of the product, out of the service, and rightfully so, right? Because the customer, in a lot of ways, is always right. And inside of the service company or any service company at that, like you have to make sure that your mission is to accommodate for that, right?
Yeah.
Because even, moving forward into the future where the type of consumer that we're going to be dealing with is going to need to be top of our mind to make sure that we're in right placement to capitalize on that as well.
Nice, nice, nice. Um, what's next steps for you guys? You've expanded you're in 3 states now.
Yeah.
You plans to go anywhere else?
So right now, no. We've grown to the 3 markets. We love the 3 markets that we're in. They're all sort of close to each other. I would say close-ish, right? The
Yeah.
roundabout way of Reno to Tri-Cities is not necessarily close, but Boise's a good halfway spot. But really, right now, our focus is to deepen the value that we have that we're able to give to our customer base. And so we're looking at adding as many added services and subscriptions as we can to be able to have a consumer be able to just sort of pick and choose what most suits them. Pest control is very cyclical, right? It's very seasonal, especially in all 3 of those markets. And so in the wintertime, we find out that customers aren't seeing the same type of value in pest control as they do during the summer.
Yep.
And so we're trying to accommodate for that to make sure that every single time of the year they're seeing value in what we're doing. It's justified why we show up and why we charge. And also just, again, as the business to be able to have more customizable options just tailors to a bigger population.
Nice, nice. I had a friend who I remember we were in college and he came to visit. He was my best friend's cousin. He came to visit and he said, "I'm wasting my parents' money in school." So I took the money out of school and he'd gone gambling with it, what he had left. And he raised like $11,000. I said, "What are you going to do?" And he goes, "I'm moving to Florida. I'm going to start a pest control business." I
Awesome.
think he had sold pest control for a couple of summers prior to that. And we all thought he was nuts, right? And he's
Yeah.
like, "Well, they got old people and a lot of bugs. So I figured if nobody wants to spray their own house, I'm just going to go down there." And boy, he turned it into a huge enterprise and sold it, made a ton of money. And it was really a great thing, really kickstarted his whole career. But none of us believed he could do it.
Yeah.
It was like, this is a tough gig, bro. You're gonna like go down and yeah, okay. But he ended up with a couple hundred trucks, that were going all over the place and all over
Yeah.
the whole state. And so it's definitely a business that scales,
Yeah.
and so one of the trickiest parts about business is as you grow, when you start scaling, it scales like a hockey stick. It goes straight up.
Yeah.
And man, success can kill you sometimes too. So, what
Sure.
challenges have you guys had as you've grown as a small business owner? You've gone from, "Hey, I'm managing this," to now you're in multiple markets. It's not like you can just jump in the car, go fix it if there's a real problem, right? You
Yeah.
have to take a flight, or I'll be there in 2 days, type of thing.
Yeah. 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 It's I think that we've faced a lot of the same issues that any other founder owner has faced. It's as you grow and scale past certain plateaus and milestones, you find that the inability to sit in multiple seats, right, just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And it's really hard to get out of the way because of how fast we got to certain milestones, thinking dumbly, I mean, dumb on our part, but thinking that we could just go do that again. And so we've really, I think the biggest competitive advantage, but also the biggest ceiling in any business is the team, right? Is being able to delegate and elevate through the different levels, identify the right seats of what you need. Because again, what I did was I started delegating roles finally, but I was delegating the wrong roles. And I found myself in a seat where I just like did not want to be. And so it's really important to sort of find the balance between both. It's important to delegate and elevate, but it's also important to elevate into what gives you energy, what lights you up, and is what made you successful in the first place, to free you up and just go do that again. So um, that has been a learning curve, and unfortunately, still like a learning curve for us as we want to grow and do different areas. Is are the seats the right seats? Should we have a seat in each one of the areas? Should we have one seat that's over all three areas? And it's always a struggle. Sometimes it always feels like a little bit of a guessing game when it comes to the accountability chart.
There is no magic bullet.
There isn't. Yeah.
We
I
wish.
heard it. I heard a
We
good
wish.
principle. Actually, when I was at the Hermosi event a few weeks back in Vegas, and I took away one of their sayings that I really loved. It's there is no golden bullet. It's 100 golden BBs lined up and fired in the right sequence. So I'm like, well, there's truth in that statement. That's for sure.
There is truth in that. That is absolutely true. If you had advice for a small business owner that was maybe looking to get into your industry, what advice would you give them, or what mistake did you make along the way? What mistake did you make along the way that you look back and you go, boy, I really blew it on that one? And also, what did you do really well? Because as you can see your cycle of growth, there's usually I should have done this, or I could have done this a little bit better. But you know what? I made a really great decision here.
Yeah.
Let's go one bad decision and one good decision as a business.
Yeah. So I actually think that the bad and the good are somewhat related. The bad was I ruled a lot, made a lot of decisions on gut, and was like, this should work out. And I felt like largely due to my work ethic, I could make something work without objectively thinking, is this a good idea or not? Or even more importantly, what does the data say? What does your research say? And so I was really shortcutting research. I would get an idea in my head and I would just think it was going to be a golden bullet and would go for it. And inversely, I feel like that's also helped me in a lot of ways, because once I did train the muscle of, no, you have to do your research. It's important. Speed is money. Money loves speed. But it's A/B test it, get proof of concept, and then go fast. And so learning that through trial and error is where largely why I feel like I am right now. And I haven't necessarily slowed down on my let's get going. But I've done the front end work that's made more wins than losses, but I'm not afraid to lose. And so I feel like losing early part of my career was an ego ding. I hated losing and all that kind of stuff. And then I started to realize like learning is just experience. Learning teaches you more than success ever will. And so I started looking forward to learning from mistakes and errors and just making sure I did not do the same error twice. that was important for me.
I'm still working on that one, Andrew.
I never said I was a master. Said I was working on it.
Yeah, let me know when you get that one figured out, Brenda.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
Yeah, really.
That is a good one.
So, Andrew, as small business owners, a lot of small business owners are very passionate about what they do, but very timid to step into the business world. Do you have any advice for them? I mean, I know what I try to teach them, but I'm the instructor, even though I have my own business. Sometimes what I say sticks and sometimes it doesn't.
Right. Yeah. So I would, I think my only advice is just really, really know what it requires before you jump in. I've talked to a lot of people that want to start businesses too, and I think half of them are qualified, half of them aren't. Like a lot of them they want to start a business because they want freedom of their schedule. And I'm like, that's a terrible, terrible reason. They
Not as a business owner.
Yeah. And, or they're like, I want to make all this money. And I'm like, and hopefully you will, but that doesn't just immediately start to get pumped out right away. So if they're starting, I feel like largely if they're starting a business for the right reasons, knowing those things going in, my only advice I give to them is like, just trust yourself, just go. Cause like, what's the worst that could happen? It fails. And then you're back at a job. Like this literally will not kill you. It's just the fear of loss. Right. And so it's for those that I feel like are qualified, have the right mission and sort of expectations coming in. I just sit there and I just encourage them to go. And those that are getting into it for the wrong reasons, I sit there and try to encourage them to never, never, never. Like, please, please don't ever. You'll become a stat of 95% of businesses fail real quick.
Yeah.
It,
Andrew, that's good. That's really good.
One of the things that we do here at the university is we try to let them know that we are a resource of resources. Even though it sounds like we know everything, we actually don't, but please don't put this on the podcast.
yeah.
And but if we can get people to know that there are resources out there for them, there's somebody that you can talk to, there is somebody who has that little piece of information that you need that is going to make a decision in your life. It's going to help you make the right decision, which may be, I shouldn't do this, or it may be, I need to step further into this.
Yeah.
But it's about knowing those resources, knowing your support system, and staying in contact with them and letting people that you trust. We're always looking for trusted advisors because we're looking for information that is going to be helpful to us as we take that next step.
Yeah. That's exactly it. I've noticed too, the longer I'm in business, the more that I start to get back to a little bit more of like abundance mindset versus scarcity mindset. Like when you're a new entrepreneur, you're like, I'm just going to blaze my own trail. I'm going to do this all by myself. And sometimes ego is like what's needed to actually get started. So not necessarily knocking that or saying it's a bad thing, but especially nowadays with the technology, the reach that some people have, like, and the knowledge some people have, there is guaranteed somebody that's already doing where you want to be in 15 years, and they're willing to help you. So why not use them?
Yeah.
That's a great point. Andrew, is this a family-based business that you have? Do you have family involved in this?
I do not. No, if I worked with my wife, we wouldn't still be married.
I was going to say, smart man.
She's a driven individual, so you can't have two.
No knucklehead brother-in-laws involved. Okay, this is good.
No, I've had good business partners along the way. So I when I originally got in, I had 3 business partners, and I'm down to just 1 business partner. He's actually located in Boise, Idaho, but we've been long time friends. He was the one that actually recruited me to come door to door. And I've worked with him ever since. So
Andrew, here's a question for you. What makes a good business partner in your eyes?
One that has, I would share maybe 2 parts: shared vision and willing to be open and honest with you. I feel like those 2 start sort of the chance of success and multiplier of success, because if you don't have shared vision, you're always going to be working against each other. The business will feel it. You'll hit plateaus faster and for longer, and everything suffers. Not just the people that are trying to make it. And then when you're able to be open and honest, even if you do have shared vision, you're going to have differing opinions of how that needs to get done or what's the most important urgent issue. And being able to have friction in that relationship in a healthy way, it can be a superpower if you let it. But if you're fighting to be right versus fighting to find out what's the right answer for the business, not just for yourself, through communication, that ultimately I think is the most important. And that's what I see in a lot of partnerships that don't work out, is the communication is just rough from start to finish.
Yeah, absolutely. So to kind of finish up here, if you were to give advice to a new entrepreneur, regardless if this is your field or something else, what would be your advice to somebody that says, "Hey, what do you recommend for me? I'm thinking to start my own business."
Yeah, I think my first question would be in what, right? If it's in pest control, I have a lot more advice I can give them. But to like any entrepreneur, I would say do your research, be willing to do research, be willing to have your mind changed, and reach out to others. Talk about it. Let people know what you're thinking, what you're doing, and then be careful who you listen to, right? They say to get a coach and a mentor for a reason, because early on in those early years of any entrepreneurial sort of journey, they're listening a lot to the wrong people, giving them bad advice, being a little nuisance or a bug in their ear, when they could shortcut a lot of those mistakes by listening to the right people, getting a mentor.
There you go. Now, what's that
Yeah,
poster
it's-
up on the wall behind you? I've been looking at that the whole time.
Tell me I can't. Tell me I can't. It's always been a motivator of mine, of just taking that noise and the bad advice and using it as fuel as a reason why I can do it. So it's a
Awesome.
mantra
Awesome.
of mine.
How do people get in touch with you? What's your website?
Yeah, so our website's naturapc.com. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all those things as Burress14. But yeah, I love to talk to people. I love to connect. Doing a little bit better of a job of that recently, making myself available to others and chat and just help and deliver value where I can, because I do have some experience. I don't have all of it, but I love to help when I can.
Good deal. Do you ever, every now and again, go out and still spray?
I wish I could lie and say I did, but I have not held a gun in my for about a year and a half now. So
Your employees are like, you're going to have to go through some training, boss. Before
yeah, I would definitely have to dust off the cobwebs, but I wouldn't have it done the other way, because all that really means for me now is I have really good leaders. They've taken that off my back, and I can focus on vision and growth.
That's good. That's good. Well,
That freedom means a lot as your business grows.
Yeah, they're studs, and they deserve every accolade for sure.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us today on the BizLife Podcast. Why don't you give your website one more time, Andrew?
Yeah, it's at naturapc.com.
naturapc.com. Thanks for joining us on the BizLife Podcast. And we're just going to say, go do something great in your business today. Thank you.